Old habits die hard. Just to front a band. Sibilance. I love the people who know what that means. I love you. I think we're right at 2 o'clock, so shall we go ahead and call this meeting to order? And the meeting is called to order. We've got a quorum. We've got a full house. Welcome, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So, if you have not had a minute to look over the minutes from last meeting, please just let's take just a few minutes to look through those, and if there are any questions, we can field those at that time, or at this time.
Whenever you're ready, I'll make a motion to reduce prior.
I did just have a couple of quick questions. Thank you. It's a short agenda, so it's like we're just gonna, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, in the minutes, as they were presented to us, there was the item regarding customary use partner communications, and that it stated we distributed information about customary use public hearing at South Walton High School this Saturday, September 8th, and also about the affidavit that's available. And I just wanted to know what the response was to that.
Sure. I'll ask David if that's all right, if I can put you on the spot. Do you want to talk about that meeting since you attended it? The customary use public hearing at the high school? Sure. That way you're on there.
For the record.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, it's literally for the record.
So David Demarest for the record. That meeting, it was not a TDC meeting, as you know, but it was a BCC meeting, and it was moving forward the reinstatement, or we don't say reinstatement, it was continuing the customary use establishment in the sense that it has to be verified through a court process because of House Bill 631. And so this is one of the early steps in this, was to hold a public forum, which basically states that customary use exists and is time memorial. And we brought, we saw people bring forward evidence of customary use. You had people speaking for it and against it. And then in the end, all of the county commissioners voted to move forward with it. So for fans of customary use, it was a good event. It was the first necessary step in putting this officially into law.
And David, just to clarify, thank you for that very much. I think, did the TDC present information about best practices or any type of communication about beach access at that meeting?
No, not at that meeting.
Okay.
So we send that out to our partners once it's, basically we try to keep everybody updated on what they can tell their guests, the best thing to tell their guests. But as far as driving the process, that is the county commission, and we follow their lead on that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
And then also in the minutes, it was stated that there would be 3 activations that would be happening, and I just wanted to, I don't think that's on the agenda, is it? The activations? No. So I just wanted, there was one of them that we hadn't been to before, Chicago Gourmet, so I wanted to find out how that went.
Yeah, so it was in the update portion of the meeting, but the Nashville, so I'll go chronologically, Music City Food and Wine in mid-September or so in Nashville went really well. We were happy with that one. We had been to it before, so we had a little bit of a track record there. High-end culinary event, so really happy with how that went. 2 weeks later, we were at Chicago Gourmet, which is a similar event, larger in scale. Went extremely well. Humongous audience. I think we went through 6,000 samples of food. And had over 2 days just a constant flow of very affluent audience. So one that, after recapping it and discussing it internally, we intend to go back to again. We're real happy with it, especially being a first time. We learned some lessons on kind of how we could probably improve our process a little bit, but thrilled with how it went. And then most recently, second weekend in November, Boudin Bourbon and Beer in New Orleans. It's our third time at that event. It is, from a kind of footprint, a square footage standpoint, our biggest activation of the year. Went extremely well again. We bring 6 chefs to that one. I think about 9,000 total samples of food given out at that event. We just have a very large, very visible footprint. Jim was at that one, so if Jim would like to add anything, but we kind of know how that one goes, and we have a track record with it, so we get a little bit, I think, better at it every time and look a little bit better every time. And this year was another great one. So all 3 activations we were real happy with.
Well, and if you look at where our visitors are coming from, even our summer visitors, those are great markets for us to be in. So, well done.
Yeah, we found that the food and wine events just work real well for us. It helps us, talk about our culinary scene here. All 3 of those events are very expensive tickets, so we know it's an affluent audience. Really thrilled with. It kept us busy for 6 weeks or so, but real thrilled with how those went.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure, I know the other ones are as well, but that one in particular has a large amount of built-in guest interaction. So you get a lot of people in front of the booth for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually attended that one, and it's just great having South Walton there.
Yeah.
It's just like a great fit.
Yeah, it's they've, after 3 years and being in New Orleans, a lot of the folks kind of know us by now, which is kind of nice. Chicago, a little bit different, that we've never been there. It's a market that we don't have nearly the foothold in that we do Nashville and New Orleans, so beneficial as well to have some conversations there and explain to people who we are and where we are. So the 3 events kind of ran the gamut, and all 3 were very successful.
Thank you. So with that, any other questions on the minutes? Sarah, would you mind?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Passes. Okay. So we're going to move on to new business. And the summer visitor tracking study. Awesome. Mike, did you want to give any just context to this before we might go in and ask questions and poke it around?
Yeah, sure. So this was the study done, our quarterly studies. This is the summer report done by Downs and St. Germain. None of the data shocked us necessarily, although the similar trends that we've been seeing quarter after quarter continued. Summer's always an important one, being that it represents about half of our visitation for the year. So just a few things to point out. Direct spending and economic impact continue to go up, pretty closely tied to the increase in bed tax over the same period. Total visitors up about 6.5%. Room rate did decline by a little less than 2%, and occupancy by about 0.5%. Jason Kutchar, our Director of Administration, has done a lot of work studying the number of units available in the market. We've seen an increase of about 1,000 units in the last 12 months. So increase in inventory can explain how total visitors can increase while occupancy decreases. So a lot of new units on the market, but still all the numbers remaining very positive. The economic impact numbers looking great for the summer. So we're real happy with that.
Mike, can I ask a question about
course.
the inventory?
Mm-hmm.
How does it break down in terms of hotels, condos?
I don't have that currently. I can definitely report back to you on it. One thing that the study does, and I'll get a page number, it tells you what type of accommodations respondents stayed in. So that'd be a pretty close. Thanks, Nancy. Page 8. About 3/4 condos and rental houses. Hotels 6%. Some staying with friends and relatives or in their personal homes as well. As far as that condo and home breakdown, I'd be happy to pull that and email it out to everybody.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry, I meant the increase in units. How did the
Oh,
increase?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got you. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll follow up with Jason, though, and report back with an answer on that.
As far as the accommodations and the breakdown for this last report, have you seen any changes in the percentages? Is it still basically the same?
Still basically the same, yeah. That doesn't change much, even quarter to quarter or looking at it year over year. We haven't seen a whole lot of change in that.
So I was looking at prior year, going to slide 6, origin of visitors, and looking at prior year, and what's increased, what's decreased, and Tennessee last year was number 2, and this year was number 4. So that's seems like a fairly substantial drop, and then Ohio's dropped out altogether, as has Missouri. And just wonder if y'all are just looking at that and figuring out what's going on there.
Yeah, the biggest thing we're seeing in the origins of these visitors is the increase in Texas, which may, from a percentage-wise, explain Tennessee, because Nashville still remains real strong for us. But especially in the summertime, Dallas and Houston are number 2 and number 5, respectively, in the cities of origin, and Texas as a state is number 1 at 18%. So that's the biggest trend that we're noticing there that may explain some of that drop from a percentage-wise for Tennessee and Ohio.
But then conversely, Austin is new in the study, as is Baton Rouge, and picking up between the two of them 4%.
Right.
St. Louis is down. It was out 4%, or down 4%.
Yeah.
Or it was number 4. Am I right? Number 4 prior years, down more than that.
I think the last summer was the first year that Southwest had direct flights seasonally from Austin.
This year? Or last year?
The summer that you're looking at.
Okay. Now, one thing that jumped out at me, and there's probably, an easy explanation for this, but I couldn't figure it out, was the method by which people were making their reservations seems like it was like 18% were looking at hotels, but then only 6% actually stayed in hotels. Did that jump out at anybody else? Let me tell you. I'll look at 8, it says they stayed in the hotels, and seemed to be a discrepancy there. Oh, okay. So on 14, it says visitors used the following to book their summer trip. I'm just trying to make this make sense to me. And it says 18% used hotel condo was mixed into it, versus when you do the accommodations, you break out hotels and condos. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something we might need to adjust going forward, so that hotel is on its own there, like it is on the previous slide, so we can kind of have an apples to apples where hotel and condo are lumped in on that top booking accommodation slide. A little bit of an inconsistency there, so we can get that rectified for next time around.
So on the slide 12, where it says typical long-term visitor, is that summer only?
That is summer only, yeah. And I think we all know we don't have a tremendous amount of long-term visitors in the summer like we do in the fall and definitely in the wintertime. But Downs and St. Germain started breaking those 3 types of travelers out a few quarters ago. We've asked them to continue doing that, even though in the summer it's a little bit less relevant than it is in the winter time.
I think it's great breaking it out like that.
Michael, can I just, on condo rental houses, on page 8, 76%. I'm assuming vacation on page 14, the vacation rental companies plus VRBO, HomeAway, those are all lumped into that category?
Yes. Yeah, that page 8 just really talks about where they stay, what type of accommodation, not necessarily how they book it. So if they're using a third party or an online travel agent, those would all be lumped into that 76% that you see on page 8 there.
So I just have a quick question. If our typical vacationer, 20% of them, which is the second highest percent, come from the Midwest, and then our typical long-term visitor, 16% come from the Midwest, which is our second highest, are we concerned at all that some of those Midwest states have just dropped out? And I know that we talked a little bit about it, but are we thinking about efforts to try to make sure that we stay present there?
To stay present in the Midwest? Yeah, we still, we know that 3/4 of our folks are going to come from the Southeast and Texas. We still maintain a strong effort in places like Chicago and Indianapolis and Cincinnati and those spots. The numbers haven't been necessarily too alarming that we have tremendous concern about the Midwest, but it's something we'll keep an eye on.
Coming at you, Mike.
That's okay.
On 20, on slide 20, it looks like, if I was reading correctly from last year, that visitor spending was down. It went from $9.56 a day last year to $9.44 this year, and then for the whole trip, it went from $6,024 to $5,853. Just kind of.
Yeah, there's a slight dip in this study in the length of stay. I mean, slight, like very small, which may account for that if they're on average spending a little bit of a less time. It's less than a day, and the difference are less than half a day, really. But that might account for that potentially.
And of the 20% of visitors who viewed the South Walton Visitors Guide before coming to South Walton, how did that guide get in front of them? What was the methodology of delivery?
It's either mailed to them. There's a small percentage given out at activations and things like that, and other methods like that. But for the most part, it's either mailed to folks who request it online, or they can view it online as well and flip through page by page. So, which is the bulk of those who have viewed the visitor guide did so online. We mail out less than 100,000 a year, so the bulk of people that are viewing it are doing so online.
And on here, on slide 21, it says 1 in 3 visitors plan a summer South Walton vacation 6 months out, and then you have some of the different sources. Do we have any data to kind of support which sources kind of book at what time frames at all? Because, just for me personally, I know that being a hotel, which is a small percent, we found this year that our travelers are actually booking much shorter term than they have before in the past, which is different from the last couple of years, so.
Yeah, we still, every quarter, still see that 6 months and out is still number one. Now, there's plenty of people, and I can find the appropriate slide, who are booking in that less than 1 month out window. We don't necessarily look at those who book 6 months or out or longer, or those who book on a shorter window, how they're finding out about the destination or what methods they're using. So that's not data that we have to us. We are investing this year in some kind of marketing effectiveness software and things like that that'll help us determine that a little bit on when people are seeing ads versus when they get to the destination. So that's something we'll be able to report on once we start getting that data back. Yeah, but to this point so far, we don't have that information.
Okay. I like the fact that we're moving forward with that. I think that's gonna be a good tool.
Sorry if this has already been asked, or if it's on here and I'm just not seeing it. What's the time frame on this report? What's considered the summer month?
The summer is June, July, and August.
June, July, and August. So the new beach rule was effective July, right?
July
July
1st,
1?
yeah.
I'm just curious how that, it still seems like the beautiful beaches are still like obviously 60% top. I'm just wondering if there's any negative feedback as far as cancellations because they couldn't get to the beach that they thought that they could originally, that type of thing.
We did ask Downs and St. Germain to do to talk to some of these folks a little bit as they're conducting these surveys on did private beach impact their vacation and things like that, and some obviously did say yes. Not a
Is it
huge,
overwhelming?
not an overwhelming amount. No, like you said, only 2 of the 3 months of the study
Right.
it applied to. And so that's the results that they came back with on that weren't alarming necessarily, but it is going noticed by a certain percentage of visitors that did report a negative experience on the beach as a result of private beach owners' rights. But like you mentioned, we still did get 94% said they plan to return to South Walton in this study.
Right.
And they gave South Walton a 9.2 rating out of 10 as a vacation destination. So positive there, but the private beach rules is something that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on as this customary use battle continues to unfold, and we'll measure customer satisfaction against it as we move forward.
Awesome. Okay.
I think in the spring study was the first time we saw that show up as a deterrent for people coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys feel that this might be your biggest fallout coming into the first year after the start, or probably maybe next year after a full summer of it? Are you guys expecting a much bigger kind of repercussion fallout?
Yeah, it's hard to say, and David and his team have been keeping in touch with bed tax collectors to measure that sort of thing, as generally the accommodations professionals are going to be the first to hear about those types of negative experiences. So probably a little too early to tell, but we know that if someone has a bad experience on the beach, whether it's because of customary use or cleanliness or safety or any other deterrent, is going to kind of hurt us going into the following year. This is the first time we're going through this battle, so it remains to be seen, and we'll continue to monitor our partners and get feedback as we kind of go through, because when we get the numbers come out after the season, so we're usually late in finding out, but through talking to our partners, we can get some anecdotal information and some booking information kind of as the season goes along.
So, and it may be in here and I just haven't seen it yet, but is there going to be a focus on trying to direct people to the areas that they can really probably have the best experience at without them fumbling around saying, well,
Sure.
I can't go here, so I got to move, and keep uprooting?
Yeah, so we always try and promote our regional beach accesses as much as we possibly can. Also, this past summer, and I think it was the 4th summer in a row or so, we had our free state park admission program that we, for the first time really this year, promoted it very heavily digitally to folks that were here in town to try and get them to those beach accesses in the state parks, because that's miles of free and public beach. So definitely more of an effort this summer than there has been probably in the past. We'll continue to do that, and if we're still in the same kind of customary use situation next summer, we'll continue that effort as well.
We also share, we've got maps and charts that list all the public beaches that we have that we share with all our bed tax collectors, so that they have that on hand. Even if they run a rental agency, they can say, okay, here's your house, here's your closest public beach access, here's how much you have on that one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Not to forget that the efforts being done by the TDC to create more regional beach access and accessibility to general public.
Yeah, so that's kind of our best solution to the problem. Is in future seasons we'll just have more more public beach that's easily accessible to our guests, because we have purchased more parcels and opening up new regional beach accesses. So, and I won't speak for Jay, but I know that that's a focus of the council and the Board of County Commissioners and Visit South Walton going forward.
I saw a recent one that was purchased on 30A. Are there, obviously there's more? Oh, ish? Okay.
We let us create a contract. When we brought the contract back at the next board meeting to be signed, in between that time, the neighbors got together and bought that property, and they actually bought it for $350,000 more than we were.
Oh, okay.
So they effectively blocked that one, but we do, we have, our 8 accesses, and we've bought 3 new that'll be coming online.
Are you allowed to say where they're located, or?
The 3 that we've already bought, yeah. We've got Miramar, we've got.
I was going to talk about that afterwards.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to give a little update on that. So, obviously, the 3 properties that were purchased in the past couple of years, one over in Miramar Beach, across the street from Amalfi Coast. We're working on that one. That is still with DEP for permitting. So that'll probably be about 18 months before that opens. The one in Dune Allen, adjacent to Stinky's, we are working on now. We had a little bit of an issue with DEP on that. We thought we were ready to go and break ground in December. We probably won't break ground now until probably January, maybe February on that one. So we were hoping to have that open very early summer, but now it might look like midsummer for that one. And the other one that we're working on is in Seagrove, across the street from Cafe 30A. That one is right now on permitting with DEP as well, and that one's along the same timeline as the Amalfi Coast property. So that'll probably be about 18 months as well. So design and permitting is a lengthy process, and if any of y'all work in just regular construction, just take that and multiply it times 10 in dealing with DEP and trying to get things permitted for the beach. It's a challenge. So we're working on those. I have been working with the board on bringing new properties forward. Like David mentioned, we lost out on the one over by Highland House, but we're still looking at options in that area because we're trying to gain access to 1,000 feet of beach that the county owns over in that area. And then we are looking at a piece of property in Seacrest right now. I am negotiating a price on that, and I'll be bringing that back to the board at their next meeting. So we're working on beach access, working on parking. I have some parking right now that I'll be bringing back to the board over in the Ed Walleen area, adjacent to Golf Place. So, and then also have some other options that I'll probably be bringing forward in the next probably, 3 to 6 months for some parking. So parking and beach access, 2 big things that we're just really diligently working on at TDC. It's really important to our community is to have that beach access, obviously. So, yeah. So that's that.
Thank you, sorry, I didn't jump in.
Oh, no worries. Like I said, I was going to come up and do an update on that anyway. So, and then just while I'm here, I'll just do a quick update on strategic planning. Many of you came to our meetings that we held, I guess, about a month or so ago. And the strategic planner is coming back to present to the TDC a first draft of that strategic plan. And so they'll be doing that at next Tuesday's TDC meeting. So if you'd like to come and listen to at least the first draft of that, you're more than welcome to. That'll be here at the annex at 9 o'clock. And like I said, this is just the first rollout of that. So once we get the feedback from the council, then we'll be moving that back to the committees for you to take a look at as well. So you can expect some emails from staff soon so we can get some feedback from you guys on that plan. Very important in how we move forward over the next 3 to 5 years. So that's it. Any questions for me? Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to chime in, the state park program, I heard so many good things about that. Locals carrying that message, so I would highly recommend that, redo that next year.
Great. Thanks for the feedback.
On slide 29, the comparison of the estimated median household income between 2017 and 2018 is substantially different. I'm just wondering if there's, is maybe the 2017 year-round and the 2018 summer only or something?
No, those are summer-to-summer numbers.
Really?
That is a staggering increase. So we have been seeing increases season after season, not one quite that large. So the sample size is pretty large in this study, so we're confident in those numbers, and obviously thrilled to see that increase, and hopefully continue to see more. But yeah, that was a much higher jump than we're used to seeing.
So to go back to the increase, and I don't know if we have a way to do this, if we thought about it, is there, or do we look at the median income and then try to figure out within that, within that group, how are they finding out who we are and how they're booking, so that we kind of know how to target that particular whatever they're using?
We, as far as from a kind of media buying and marketing standpoint, household income is one of the first things, in addition to geography, that we look at. So all of our digital media, all of our print media, we're only focusing on high-income families that either receive these publications or that our ads are being served to. So that's kind of the best way that we can make sure we're reaching those folks as efficiently as possible. So, we'll continue to do that and take a look at that. And as that number continues to increase, we'll, continue to reinvest in those opportunities.
I know that when we've done some independent studies on our own on some of our properties, the household income is always skewed a little bit, because as people retire, they're not really reporting a household income. They have investments and other things, so that was something we always took into factor. That just because they don't report it doesn't mean they don't have the money to spend.
Right, and we always report on median, so half the people make less, half the people may make more. The average is always significantly higher, because we do get a lot of visitors whose response to that question is $400,000 or $600,000 a year. So if you looked at the average household income, it would be over $200,000. But it does get skewed by some of those extremely high responses, so we look at the median number.
Might be attributed to the increase in visitors from Texas as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every other car is a Texas license plate lately, which is great.
So on slide 30, and looking at the visitor profile, just origin states, Florida went from 2% to 6%, and I just wondered if those were heads in beds, or those are day trippers, or if we had any idea.
Yeah, it'd be a combination of the two, and 2% is such a low number that if in this survey it could have been skewed by hitting a large group from Florida potentially to get it up to that 6% number. I don't have a breakdown if those are, what type of visitors those are. We know a lot of our day trippers are Florida residents, but I don't have a breakdown specifically on how many of those are long-term visitors or what we call our typical visitor, the 10-day or less crowd. But I would just attribute that to this one study, to be honest with you. We'll look at that going forward, but I don't imagine that that's a number that we're going to see increases like that in going forward.
We do a lot of events, large-scale events, and theater events and that type of thing. We get so many people in from Pensacola and Tallahassee, so I was just interested in that figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that could certainly be corporate too. More meetings coming.
Could be. Yeah, we know that group business is not in the summertime specifically is not a huge percentage of our business. But looked like Lisa, you look like you were about to say something there. You're the expert in that, so I'll.
Oh, well, no. I mean, my particular perspective might be different from other people's, because
You got too much group in the summer.
probably do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're
She's group heavy.
Yeah.
Right.
We're about 50-50, and we probably shouldn't be.
That's a
quite
good
that.
problem.
Gotcha.
So on slide 32, just looking at the use of the website and the beaches websites and how that has dropped, I thought that was really interesting. So if they're not using the Visit South Walton site, or if they're obviously using it a lot less, and not using the various beaches websites, what are they using?
I would imagine, and this is only by kind of speculation, but search engines and online travel sites, like TripAdvisor and VRBO and some of those spots, as those increase in popularity, and again, that's not broken out in here, but as those increase in popularity, I think that could account for some of that shift, certainly.
Ideally, those engines would be taking you to these websites,
Right.
you know?
Right. I guess what I was going for was, as people book more commonly on things like platforms like VRBO and HomeAway and things like that, that may be where some of that traffic is going.
Well, I know that we're going to be putting a lot, quite a bit of effort into the new website for Visit South Walton, so it'll be interesting to see where that number goes.
Yeah, we'd obviously like to see that number of people using visitsouthwalton.com go up significantly, and since we'll be building in a booking tool into the website to keep them on the site throughout kind of the booking process. So those are numbers we'll definitely look at after the first of the year when the new website launches.
Can any of that be attributed to the state of the current website or the problems that we've had with it?
Probably so. Yeah, I would imagine so. We decided to build a new website because we received negative feedback and testing results on our current website that noted a lack of functionality or difficulty of navigation and things like that. So I'm sure that would have something to do with it for sure.
And yet, all the other websites are down too, so.
Right, I was gonna say,
that's
it's kind of down across the board, so what,
interesting.
yeah, so what
I
are they
don't
doing?
know. That's a head scratcher. So on 35, the typical South Walton visitor, is that year-round visitor? Because is that figure different from the one we just saw that was the summer visitor?
No, I believe that
Same.
slide 35 is the typical South Walton visitor just for these 3 months, just that
Okay.
replied to this survey.
Yep, it is.
Go back to the websites for a quick second. Are we tracking any type of mobile devices? Is that included in here? Smartphones, iPads, are we tracking those?
We do track visitation to our website by device.
Okay.
It is about 2/3, I believe, mobile. The visits to visitsouthwalton.com, about 2/3 of those are on a mobile device.
Big increase.
I wonder too, since 76% are booking vacation rentals, if they're directly calling in, because they're so, the homes are so different to talk about it.
How is that call volume?
Well, we don't do vacation rentals anymore, but a lot of, majority of our vacation rentals was mainly through phones. They wanted to talk to someone to compare homes.
What do you think, Lisa? How's your call volume for reservations? I mean,
Yeah.
is it
Oh,
steady or?
yeah, oh, no, we stay busy.
Yeah, we stay busy.
Will our website we have a call center as well with a booking agent, with a booking system. We also need a call center, it sounds like.
No, the booking application that we'll be implementing is all online. So it integrates with a hotel and vacation management online booking tools. And what it'll do is allow people to search accommodations to their specific desired amenities and things like that on our site, filter out a list of availability and price based on those parameters. And once they select that they're ready to book, it'll pull them through to the accommodations website, but it'll pull all of the rate and date availability information that they had entered. So the booking actually takes place not through us or through our website, but that final step of pulling out your credit card will go through the accommodations partner site.
And there'll be an opportunity for someone to call at that point.
Yeah.
That might be interesting to track that, or have an element to track where they left the site and made the call.
Yeah, we would be able to check once they kind of click through if then they make a kind of complete the transaction. So we will be able to track that. It would be tough for us to track unless we could, without specifically working with our bed tax partners on percentage that ended up calling as a result of that. It'd be a little bit tougher to track.
Yeah.
But we will be able to, this tool gives us a lot of metrics that we'll be able to use and share with our partners.
That's really exciting. I didn't know about the booking engine until today, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's
we're
good news.
we're excited about it. Yeah.
Mhm. I feel like I should say, in terms of the booking engine and the search keyword searches, will you be sharing some of the, when somebody goes to the site and starts doing searches, to me, the most interesting thing would be to know what people are using as keyword searches. So I wonder if our partners are going to be shared that information. That would be really highly important information in terms of cost per clicks and those kinds of things in the future.
Sure.
So I don't know if that will be private for the visit software, or will all of our partners have that keyword searching information?
We'll be able to share that. It'll give us the ability to track conversions, or at least track people getting through to that final booking step, and we'll be able to share that with our partners.
That's really cool.
Sure.
I think we're all bid on the same keywords.
I know.
Yeah, we're causing our own
I
problems.
just thought
That's
it's
all
like,
where that was going.
works for them.
Yeah.
It's exactly right, yeah.
I'll take the top 10.
It's all gonna be about the money. Which the TDC will have a lot of.
So on slide 43, for satisfaction with South Walton, we have 2% that probably will not return, 1 that won't, and 3 that we don't know. Is there any way, or do we have any way to kind of dig down to find out what those reasons actually are? Or is that just that generic for them to kind of?
Yeah, they do ask a follow-up question for those folks, and it does list at the very bottom of that page the top 5 reasons. Too crowded, traffic, too expensive, parking was a problem, and customary use of beaches were the top 5 of the people who probably and definitely will not return. So of those 3%, those are their top 5 reasons when asked the follow-up question of why.
You think the expansion of 98, even though it goes into the other county, could be attributed to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest traffic issue we have right now. So once that's resolved, that'll be a major, as people are going through Miramar Beach and to the outlet mall. I mean, that'll be a major relief once that is done. As far as our traffic issues go, that's probably the biggest one. So it'll be nice when that one's resolved.
We'll just have more spending on this side versus, I wouldn't want to go that way.
True.
Seems like the spring median age of the visitor was 51 as well. Was it?
I believe so, yeah.
What was the falls, do we remember?
I don't remember.
Do you remember what
The
the
Is it older in fall or winter?
To be the winter would definitely be our oldest. As far as the fall goes, I don't remember off the top of my head. All our research is posted online. I'm happy to look it up and shoot a note back. I'd imagine fall being maybe slightly older, but not a whole lot than spring or summer. And
Especially now with fall breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Winter, I would think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Seems like maybe winter might have been 53. I don't know. I might be making that up.
amazing how you guys can break down, well, with the, all the information to really just drill down to get some of these numbers and.
Sure. And Larry, to kind of follow up on your point, I will mention we have recently signed on with a company called Key Data, which is going to be another research tool that we'll be using that also pulls information directly from reservation systems from vacation rental management companies. So where this is looking back at a 3-month period after it's over, that'll give us the ability to log into this program, check things like occupancy, ADR, not only up to the, I think every 6 hours it's updated, but we can look forward as well as backwards. So starting with the next quarterly meeting, I'll have a lot more, especially occupancy and rate drill down information that we'll be able to provide. It's a pretty sophisticated tool. We can break it down by beach neighborhood. We can break it down by vacation rental type, number of bedrooms. Pretty exciting tool that we've invested in and that we'll be ready to use here in the next few weeks. So next meeting we have 2 months from now, we'll have some more pretty exciting information that we'll be able to share through that tool. Key Data.
I think page 47 answers the question to the websites. If 59% use friends and family to plan their meeting, they don't need a website.
Yeah, I just saw the same thing. Yeah, just more tenured people coming here, and less first-time travelers.
So airline websites come up on here? Or are we advertising, or we have links on the airline websites, or?
Only if it's reaching through an ad server that we use, like Google Ads and things like that. We don't purchase ads directly on any airline websites because of the way we buy our digital media. We know we're reaching travelers through some of the services that we use, so they're likely to pop up there. But we don't directly place on any airline websites.
You guys, is there a campaign, I know we almost have to do some damage control, but with the red tide and how long people worrying, do y'all get a lot of feedback about their questions?
We didn't get a whole lot. We got a lot more early in the summer when it was a major problem in Central and South Florida. People wondering if it was here because it was getting a lot of national or regional attention. What we do is generally report them or direct those folks to a more official service than us for maps and things like that. When it did come here, to be honest, we didn't hear a whole lot about it. Fortunately, it got here after our busiest time of year, unlike South and Central Florida that we're getting it right in the middle of our busy season anyway. We didn't hear a whole lot about it. We do occasionally get questions on social media and things like that, but I wouldn't say it had a major impact.
We were kind of lucky in the sense that at least this year when it was high in the story cycle, it was absent here. And what we generally did with guests who called in
Would anybody like any more time to view the study or ask more questions? Good job.
Thanks.
So that concludes new business. We'll move on to old business. Potential brand standards change.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up. If you remember from the last meeting, for all those that were here, we suggested a brand standards change to refer to our 16 beach towns rather than our 16 beach neighborhoods. And after discussion, you voted on it and approved it to move forward to the Tourist Development Council for their vote. We presented it there, and it was declined there. So I just wanted to bring that back and give you an update. It'll stay 16 beach neighborhoods for the foreseeable future.
Duly noted. Can you tell us succinctly what the issue was? Why it was declined?
Why it was declined?
You've got 30 seconds.
I think it was just mainly a preference, I think. I don't think it was anything more than that necessarily. The council felt that neighborhoods was more fitting of what we offer here and didn't see a need for a change, so decided to not move forward with the change.
Thank you.
Clay also spoke for a second.
That's right, yeah.
Legality of the term towns, and nobody wanted to hear him say anything more about that.
Clay is the TDC attorney, and he did bring up that towns oftentimes represents more of a municipality, and that we might find ourselves in a tricky spot potentially. So all those factors led to it staying 16 beach neighborhoods.
And that's kind of where it ended, and everybody said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, right. That's right. Got it.
Move on.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that update.
Sure.
Jay, was there anything else, Mr. Tusa, anything else you would like to enlighten us with?
So, just want to elaborate on the strategic plan process. So, it was a very good process. Got a lot of feedback. We heard from 100 of our partners, and we got about 400 responses back from residents, and then all the folks that came to the meeting. So we got about 500 surveys completed. So pretty good number where we can kind of get an idea of what is of interest, what is the pulse of our community. And I'll say that there were no major surprises there. I think beach access was number one, and I think right now the timing of the strategic plan and where we are with customary use, that's not surprising that beach access is the number one issue. Parking, congestion, traffic, all those things were on the list. Then, you know, we talked to our partners about the TDC, and we talked to residents about the TDC. And, you know, I think we've done a good job in the past couple of years that I've been here and reaching out. But I kind of heard it loud and clear from our partners and residents that they want to hear more from the TDC. And so even while we're still in wrapping up the strategic plan, we're already thinking about ways of how we can reach out to our partners and residents and really communicate what the TDC is doing for everyone. Whether it's you're a local and you want beach access and you want parking, well, what are we doing for you? Or if you're a restaurateur, what are we doing for you? Or if you're a hotel, what are we doing for you? Or if you're a shopping venue, what are we doing for you? How are we helping you? And so we're really going to start listening more to our partners and seeing how we can help you more. So we're going to start working on that this next year. We're going to look at maybe some business after hours or some lunch and learns. We're going to look at some educational sessions of how we can help our partners. Those are just a few things that we've been brainstorming over the past few weeks. And once we get that flushed out some more over the next probably 3 weeks or a month, we'll start rolling some of these ideas out. I am now on the board for the local chapter for the Restaurant and Lodging Association. So I feel that's really important to be engaged. I went to my first meeting 2 weeks ago. We have another one coming up. So just a way for me to connect and talk to our partners and see what they need as a benefit, how we can help. That's what we're here for, and that's what we want to do. So that was my biggest takeaway from the strategic plan thus far. Like I said, everything else, I don't think there's any major surprises there. And once we get the document officially unveiled, it'll be a good roadmap of where we need to go officially, but unofficially, I think we all knew where we needed to go. But it's nice to kind of have that roadmap of, okay, this is where we all need to be, and this is where we're going to go. So,
I think even having that series of strategic planning meetings did exactly that, which is the outreach and getting the input, and it felt very inclusive.
Right.
And you guys are really good about holding multiple ones and making it convenient, and so kudos to you
Yeah.
on that. I think that was the first step.
yeah, and we're going to start some smaller group sessions, some roundtables, and they're going to be very specific to segments of the industry. So it might be one for restaurants, might be one for shopping venues, might be one for our accommodation partners. But we really want to have these more small, intimate groups where we can sit down and just have a casual conversation of what's going on in your world and what the TDC has going on and how we can work together for the common goal of just more economic output for the county, in terms of tourism. So, we're still kind of figuring that out of what we want that to look like, because we don't want to be an overburden. I mean, we want to listen to our partners, but, is it really, do we need to have a meeting every month? Probably not. But will our partners come to the meeting if we have one every quarter or maybe 3 times a year? So that's kind of what we're working on right now, is timing. What does that look like? How do people want to hear from us? How do they want to engage with us? Is it breakfast? Is it lunch? Is it dinner? Is it business after hours? Is it, some type of online session? So we're going to really start to work on all that and maybe do some surveys of our partners and what's meaningful and beneficial to them. And like I said, just get to work of working with our partners.
Sounds great.
So, like I said, biggest takeaway was working more with our partners, listening to our partners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the council?
Sorry, Stacy,
I'm sorry?
to interrupt you. I had a little.
You've got more?
I do have a little bit more of a director update, and I think David
Please.
does as well.
Please.
So I'll be brief, but I wanted to thank and recognize Jim Richard. He, on this committee, is the TDC liaison to this committee. His term on the TDC is expiring, and he's termed out, so this will be his last time here on this committee. Been very helpful to this committee and to me personally in representing the restaurants of South Walton and a lot of our marketing efforts. So, Jim, we appreciate all that you do for us and look forward to working with you in an unofficial capacity going forward.
Thank you very much. It's been a great honor to be part of this committee and to work with the TDC and help understand. And as you were just saying, that educating the community on what the TDC does and even what this committee does is important, because even in the surveys we saw some conflict, and some of our guests want less visitors but more restaurants, and so those obviously don't go together. But educating the people is a great goal, and thank you. It's been I'm sad to go, so thank you.
Sad to see you go. Will we still be on the board?
No, I'm off
you
the
are
board. Yeah, my
kinda
term.
out.
There's now a 2-term limit on the TDC board,
Okay.
so next Tuesday will be my last meeting, I believe.
I love
I'll be on
it.
the
I was
board.
going to say, what are you going to do with
Yeah.
all your free time now, right? Me being
Not
me every
sure.
November. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then last thing I wanted to touch on, and then I'll let David add a few things, is some of our marketing activities during and immediately after Hurricane Michael, just because we haven't met since then. So for the day or two, since it came so quickly before, and for about 10 days after, we paused a lot of our paid digital media outside the market for a couple reasons. One, just a lot of unsurety of what was happening here in Walton County, and then out of some sensitivity to our neighbors to the east of us as well. We started to phase that back in over time, so we're now back to kind of a normal program. What we did in the days following was a lot of social media, kind of giving supportive messages while showing that our beaches were clean and safe and unharmed, and doing our best to be sensitive in that messaging. So we've kind of moved back to our normal programming since that time, but wanted to share that. One of the other things that came out of that are two things. One, we partnered with a 4d2a company immediately following, I think starting the Saturday following the storm, on a limited edition fundraising T-shirt that we partnered with them on. It was a limited run. We sold out in 4 days and raised a little over $130,000 for the Sonder Project. which is working 7 days a week over in Bay County. So we were super proud of that effort, that we were able to kind of get that going quickly. The response was fantastic. So really proud of that one. We also, as a communication effort, started WaltonCountyCares.com, which was a website that we created that served kind of as a conduit of information. There's a lot of information coming from a lot of sources, so we use that as a site to kind of curate that information and direct people who had questions to that site on how they could help, what the conditions were, what events might be coming up that were raising funds for those impacted areas. And the website went great, and it also got us some PR mentions as well for our efforts in that. So I think that's a good segue for me to turn over, unless you have any questions for me, to David, who can give you a quick update on what's going on in the communications department.
Take your time, David.
Yeah, Mike told you all the good stuff and then handed it over to me. Although not all the good stuff. So as he mentioned, right after the hurricane, we did go into action with the message that South Walton is there to help our neighbors. And the undercurrent of that is because we're okay. And so I was up in New York meeting with journalists right after the storm, which was kind of a weird place to be, but the journalists were real receptive, got in several online spots, social media with Fathom, and then they put out to all their subscribers a newsletter that mentioned us. Yesterday we were in the New York Times online. There was a article that mentioned the destruction to the Panhandle, and we snuck our line in there that Walton County was unharmed, but did launch WaltonCountyCares.com as a way to help out our neighbors. So that's kind of the best that can go. Something, as Jay mentioned, the strategic planning studies were going, and we are that. So when we talk to journalists, that's communicating outward. We are outside of our market trying to get our message of Walton County and why it's wonderful. It's also important, of course, for us to have that message in our market. It doesn't bring in visitors that way, but it changes perhaps the reception and perception of those visitors. So previously, in previous years, we had once a year put out a mailer to everyone. If you have a mailbox in Walton County, you got one of these, and they talk about the state of tourism. This year, what we're segueing into, this is a first step, but all the local newspapers, so the South Walton Sun, the Beach Breeze, SoWal Life times 2, we put together our tourism information and distributed it that way. That way we're not paying for the postage. We're getting it in these publications in the correct format.
Is that paid or?
That's paid, yep. We pay for that, although it is it cost us about a third of what it did to send this.
Yeah.
And instead of once a year, we go 3 times a year with that. So I think repeating that message and driving it home is very important, and we're looking for other ways to continue to do that. I think that's going to be nice to get it out in 3 different ways and 3 different times a year. Something else is the connection. We relaunched that about 9 months ago. So monthly, you should all be getting the connection in your inbox. If you're not, you can sign up for it on our partner site. Once a month, you get to see what's going on with beach ops. So if you have a question about what beach accesses are open, what's going on with bike path, any of that's going to be covered in beach ops. That's our most popular section. I also have a section for communications and PR, tell you what are our most recent press releases that you might care to use. So it'll be most recently, where do you go for Thanksgiving dinner? What's open? It's always going to be topical. Then we've got as well the marketing and the sales section, tell you what's going on there, and a calendar of events. So the connection's something that I can tell that people are sharing online. It's got a good open rate. I'd like to have more subscribers to it. So that's something we will continue to work on. For the year to date, TDT, our tourist development tax, is up 10%. We see that as the best way to gauge the balance of visitation and value. So if the price goes up, the TDT goes up. If the numbers stay the same, if they both go up, then it goes up that much more. And I don't want to talk about any other possibilities. Because we're not gonna go down. We have the Artist of the Year and the Perfect Awards coming up in January. We've changed the date for that, so it's going to be a big kickoff to several of our things. The new magazine that comes out, the Artist of the Year, and the Perfect Awards. We've already had voting for that. We've done interviews for the Artist of the Year, so we have a pretty good idea who the winners are. We're not announcing it till January, but you'll see plenty ahead of that as well. We've started in another way. We're always looking to get information out. Put together these 5 tourism facts of Walton County. This is a little prototype here that I will share with y'all. But that's something that if you can only remember 5 things that gets across the value of tourism to Walton County, these will be good. Created them with the plan to share them with policymakers. So when we talk to our state representatives, then this is something, hey, just remember that tourism really matters for the local economy. And that is about it on the communications update for you today. Again, lots of great PR coming in. New York Times, just today we got to announce that South Walton was named by National Geographic Traveler as one of their 18 places to go in 2019. So that's huge.
Has that been announced?
Just announced today.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, that is amazing.
Yeah,
it
Woo.
There were only 4 U.S. locations that made that list,
Wow.
and we were in the nature category. So that's a great
Wow.
message for us.
That's great.
Yeah, the Artificial Reef Association and
Underwater.
and UMA were highlighted in that.
Absolutely.
Today.
We have gotten.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
How does that, besides just hitting, share, how does that information get taken and highlighted to the rest of the world in the activations and what we're doing as, hey, look, everybody, National Geographic said to come here, you should too.
Yeah, they do a good job, of course, getting the word out with
Yeah.
their publication, and then we get to share it. So we're sharing it through social media today. It'll be something that we can bring back around and say that, this is, now you can't pitch it to media because they don't want to, you don't want to advertise in Southern Living that National Geographic named you. But it does put some pressure on those other publications to include you in their roundup or to take a closer look at that.
But
So
you can use that designation within messaging,
Absolutely.
advertising. I
Yeah.
mean, that is super strong, being able to put in quotes, one of the top 18 places to go in 2019, National Geographic Traveler. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And the UMA and the Swara Reefs have really done a good job because they're projects that capture the imagination and the spirit of Walton County. It says preservation, it says art, it says nature and the natural ecology. So the more we can put in that sort of wheelhouse, the better as far as I'm concerned, because it is a story that has legs, and I think this proves that.
And UMA, we are about to put out the call to artists for this year's submittals for sculptures for the selection process.
Okay, cool.
And I saw in, Reasons to Come, or what they're doing, the category of outdoor nature, that category was up like 4% or something like that. And I'm quite
Yeah.
sure it's because of those efforts.
And
Here it is, hiking, nature walks, it was up 5%.
one of the things we have in the communication section of the connection is I present highlighted wins essentially for that month, PR stories that highlight Walton County. So here in Walton County, we really have just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to this kind of positive PR coverage. September and November, we had New York Times, Forbes, Preview Magazine, Connect Corporate Magazine, Successful Meetings, Convention South, Fathom, Architectural Digest, and The Advocate. So just to name a few of
What
those.
was in Architectural Digest?
That was the 50 most beautiful small towns in America, and that is our second time in Architectural Digest in the past few months.
Which town was it?
We had two. We had Seaside and Grayton Beach. Is that
Alice Beach,
Alice Beach.
Yeah.
Seaside and Alice.
So it's nice to represent an area that tells its own story
But what was
so
the
well.
title of the article?
The
Towns,
oh. Yeah.
small towns.
Don't tell Clay.
Sorry.
Well done.
Yeah, nicest neighborhood
There you
in,
go.
yeah, top 10.
That, you're right, it's an embarrassment of riches. I'm embarrassed for us, not.
Yeah,
Sorry, not
I'll
sorry.
keep taking it. That's great.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I would just say, the internal or in-market messaging, the efforts and resources that you put into that is money well spent.
And if you have suggestions, if you see someplace where you think we should be that we're not, or if you see a distribution channel that you think would be really a cost-effective and effective way to get our message out to Walton County residents, please share that and we'll look at it real hard.
Thank you,
I just had
David.
a quick
Oh, sorry.
question, just for my benefit. How do you get to be in the top 18? Is that just,
Good PR.
did you know it was coming, or?
I knew it was coming about a month ago.
Yeah,
We'd already been in National Geographic with the Underwater Museum of Art.
okay, okay,
It's something where you pitch 100 times.
okay.
You just want to.
Not to correct you, but I believe it's 28, not 18.
18.
I believe
it's 28
it's
places?
28, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
And only 4 are
never
in the
mind
United
then.
States.
Pardon me, not to.
But only 4 in the United States,
in
is
the
that
US.
right?
Yeah.
It's
for the US.
huge.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't want to drive to Mozambique, then South Walton's a good option.
Any other questions
Thank you.
for David? Thank you so much, David. Saved the best for last. That was great. Wait, no!
Just made a comment to save the best to last. One thing I forgot when I was up here, I was remiss in mentioning. So a few of y'all might be wondering where our annual meeting was this past year. We usually do that in October, and we have decided to move the annual meeting to May, to Tourism Week. So that is when our next annual meeting will be, and that is the week of May 5th. We don't have a date just yet. We are working on securing a venue right now. So once we get that, we'll send out a save the date and connections probably in the next month or so. But we thought it'd be much more relevant to celebrate our biggest event of the year during Tourism Week. And so, and we plan on doing a few other events that week. Last year, we did something in conjunction with the Chamber, so we're going to continue to do that. And we did some educational sessions. So we really want to have it where every day of the week we're doing something to celebrate tourism in Walton County. So. But this way we can get together, we can have a nice meal, and we can celebrate Tourism Week. We can talk about all the successes in our community and what it does to Walton County. So anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know that if y'all were looking for it, saying, hey, where was the annual meeting? It's coming up. So you didn't miss it.
Thank you, Jared. That sounds like a good move, actually. Any other?
We're looking at ways that we can engage, just like I said, with our partners a little bit more. And so we are aligning, and you heard David mention it earlier, maybe Mike, I'm not sure which one, but we're talking about our Perfect Awards and our Artist of the Year. And so we're going to be doing a celebration in January for that. And then we'll have our annual meeting. And then we're looking for something perhaps in the fall where we're going to do something a little bit more kickoff of our marketing plan. So maybe that would be like in September, October. But we're looking for some kind of big events throughout the year, ways that we can get together with our partners and celebrate our milestones at the TDC. So just looking for different ways we can engage our partners. So.
Thank you. Any other updates from the directors?
That is all.
Thank you. Any comments from the council?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Public comment at this time? Phil, sorry. Holding up the audience for us. Thank you, Phil. Let us know how we did, okay? Okay. Anything else, guys?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We're adjourned.
We're gonna miss having you up here. It's been nice working with you.
come sit and I'll be part of the audience.
You can hold up the other side for us.
Sorry.